There's a lot of things that we believe that aren't true. We might call those myths, and there are 5 bedwetting myths that parents believe. I'm an expert on the topic, and I can debunk every one of them. Early in my career as a professional psychologist, I worked primarily with children, adolescents, families, parents, and my doctoral dissertation was on bedwetting. I know. It's not that I'm passionate about bedwetting, it's that I saw a problem as I was in my psychological training that parents are looking for help with, and kids are looking for help with. So I wrote a whole book on that. My doctoral dissertation addresses what's really driving the problem of bedwetting and how to solve it. I've noticed as I've worked with parents that there are a lot of myths that parents believe about bedwetting, and believing those myths actually makes it a little harder to handle. So let's take each one in this list of 5 myths that parents believe. Number 1, bedwetting is caused by ineffective toilet training. It's a myth. Bedwetting has 2 causes that we've identified. Now, I'm talking about a specific kind of bedwetting. There's several different kinds. The most common is nighttime only, where there's never been a period of dryness for over 6 months. That's the most common kind. It's called primary nocturnal enuresis. And there are 2 causes to that we've identified in the research. A deficiency of a specific hormone, it's called ADH, or antidiuretic hormone, and deep sleeping. And when you have both of these together, you get bedwetting. I can get into all of the dynamics behind that. I know from my research and clinical experience, it's not about ineffective toilet training. Myth number 2. My child is being lazy or defiant or naughty. Not the case. A little disclaimer there. Your child may be lazy or defiant or naughty in some ways, but this is not causing the bedwetting, and it doesn't explain why it's happening. If we approach it that way as parents, we tend to create more conflict with our child. And you've probably already experienced this if you have a bedwetting child, that there is some tension around the issue. You might have approached it with an assumption that if they would just cooperate with you, we wouldn't have this problem. That's not true. I already explained in the first myth what the 2 primary causes are of nocturnal enuresis, or the bedwetting. It doesn't have to do with your child's compliance or willingness to cooperate. Little caveat here. Your child's willingness to cooperate can have a whole lot to do with the solution. And I'll come back to that in just a little bit. But it's not the cause of the bedwetting. Myth number 3. Bedwetting is caused by drinking too much before bed. Not true. It makes sense that a lot of people would believe that myth, but it's just not true. What we found in the research on bedwetting is a deficiency of antidiuretic hormone does contribute to a bedwetting problem and is one of the primary causes. This hormone tends to dry us up at night, and when you have enough of the hormone, you don't have to get up and go to the bathroom. Remember, the other cause is deep sleeping. So what if you don't have enough of the hormone, but you're not a deep sleeper? Well, what happens is your body continues with a normal urine production at night. Your bladder fills, causing the sensation of, oh, I need to get up and go to the bathroom, and because you're not a deep sleeper, you can get up and go. Same thing happens if you drink a lot of fluids before night. Your bladder fills, you get those signals, you get up and go to the bathroom. That's not what's causing the bedwetting. Sometimes there's a higher frequency of bedwetting incidents if there's a lot of fluid consumption before bed. But I actually increase the intake of fluids in the treatment program that I suggest, because what we're doing is trying to increase the intensity of those signals that are coming up from the bladder. That kind of blows parents' minds sometimes when I tell them, no, don't restrict fluids before bed. We want to increase the magnitude of the signals that they're already getting from their body. It's a little bit of a paradox that we get to address, but it's not the fluid consumption that causes the bedwetting. It may just increase the frequency of the incidence because the problem's already there. But, like I just pointed out, it can be part of the solution as well. Myth number 4, bedwetting is caused by emotional distress. Do you remember when I said earlier that there are many kinds of bedwetting, at least 4 specific categorizations of bedwetting, most of which have nothing to do with emotional distress? There is one that gets tied to emotional distress, specifically loss. If a child loses a pet, for example, or a parent, or something that's significant to them, we can see some increases in bedwetting as a symptom, but that is not the most common factor in bedwetting. In fact, it's only in a very specific kind of bedwetting. Having said that, emotional distress is often associated with bedwetting because sometimes bedwetting causes emotional distress. People are not having fun with this, parents or kids. So that causes some emotional distress. Also, the conflicts that can come up between parents and kids, especially when parents are buying into the myths that we're talking about on this particular video. But the emotional distress itself, typically not a cause of most kinds of bedwetting. Myth number 5, we should just wait it out. They're going to grow out of it. As is the case with most myths, there's always a little bit of truth that has us believing the myth in the first place. There's some truth to this one. Most kids who are wetting the bed grow out of it. In fact, I think the specific numbers show something like 1% of bedwetters are still wetting the bed at age 18. Now, if you're 10 or 11, you're thinking, 18, I can't wait that long. That's why I identified this one as a myth. Even though the likelihood of growing out of it before adulthood is very high, there are a lot of factors here that say, hey, if we can address it at an earlier age, let's do that. Because then it represents a whole lot less stressful context for the child and for the parents. Simply waiting to grow out of it probably isn't the most acceptable option for most families. And there are things that you can do about it. So even though there's some truth to this, that yeah, most people are going to grow out of this, it doesn't mean that we should just ignore it or hope that it goes away sooner. There's a lot of things that we can do. Did you hear me say that there's a lot of things that we can do? I don't know if you were aware that my treatment program that I developed in writing my dissertation is available to you as a downloadable ebook. Go to finallydry.info and pick up your copy today. I think it's going to help.
Head was down, face locked onto the phone.